So last night I had a chance to go see the new movie that just came out, Underwater. I wake up this morning and I see the general box office for opening weekend and it was only at $7 million. Now if you're a fan of science fiction, horror, and you like your horror more on the scary, actual psychological side of things and not so much on the gore aspect, this is actually a fantastic movie for you. And this is a movie that needs to be shown, needs to be seen in a movie theater. I am going to love owning this movie and being able to watch it anytime that I want to, but that experience that I got last night at the movie theater will not be able to be duplicated. So if you're a fan of science fiction of any kind, and you're not afraid of like claustrophobic things, or that's not something that puts you off, or even if that is something that puts you off and you're looking for a big scare, then I highly recommend that you go check out this movie. Now, with that out of the way, the rest of this video we're going to be talking about some spoilers and my thoughts on this movie. So now you've been warned, go check the movie out. After you do, then come check out my video. You won't be disappointed. Alright, so we're back. You've been warned. This movie was directed by William Eubanks, who is a director that's been directing for a while, since at least 2009 or 2010 from the research that I could find using IMDb, which is a pretty good source, even though I know that cannot always be 100% accurate. I can't really name any other films that he's made that I actually like or that are like pretty mainstream. However, in 2010 he did release this really awesome slasher flick called Wreckage, about a girl who gets like broken down near a salvage yard, and there's a slasher about and they're chasing through the salvage yard, and just it's pretty gruesome and visceral. I liked it when I'd seen it, so I was interested when I had seen that occurring. So I had been seeing the previews and things about this movie for several months. I think all the way back going to October. I saw that it was underwater, kind of gave me like a Event Horizon Aliens vibe, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. Fish monsters, you know, they gave away one of the monsters attacking them under the water. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a sweet horror movie, because usually in January they always seem to give me like one really solid horror movie. And I don't know why that is, but I always appreciate it, because this is one of the biggest months for me to be going to see movies at the movie theater. And I'm getting all excited for this, and then they finally come out with a rating and it's PG-13, and my heart just sinks. I'm like, oh no. Because already I know I'm not gonna get the ruthless goopiness that I like, the nudity, swearing, all that good stuff. Like, it's gonna be neutered, obviously. So this is made for as many people to see it as possible, with the confines of the story and what they're trying to achieve. However, after looking at what else is out in the movie theaters right now, like The Grudge, which I give no fucks about, there's really nothing else as far as like horror, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to go see. So we ended up going to see that last night. Well, turns out, holy shite, was this movie incredible. Blew my frickin' mind. I cannot believe what you can get away with PG-13 these days. Kudos to you, Fox, for putting out this movie. Fantastic stuff. This is a movie that needs to be seen at the movie theater. I'm super excited for when I can pick this up on Blu-ray and watch it whenever I want to, because this is definitely one that will get some repeat watches. It's pretty good. But the experience that I had last night can't be duplicated except for on a screen like that. So you should go to the theater and check this out. It's incredible. And you'll feel the claustrophobia. You'll feel the fear and tension sometimes, which you don't always get. But I realize with this being a PG-13 film with the confines of the story and what they were trying to accomplish and how they did that, not having to be overly gruesome or using tons of profanity to, make a situation more ridiculous. They did a hell of a job. This movie stars Kristen Stewart in a pretty excellent role for her. It's a very muted and toned back role. There's a lot of things she has to convey through her body language. And when she does have dialogue, it's like very short sentences and like to the point. So I really appreciated that, and she does a really good job in her role. They have T.J. Miller in here as like comedic relief, and in a movie like this, I don't know if I would really want that kind of stuff going on here because this is super serious. But he does the comedy at just the right times. He delivers it amazingly. And I really appreciate him being in this movie, and I think he was my favorite character, to be honest. Also, I gotta give a shout out to Vincent Cassel as the captain of the crew of this oil rig where this event takes place. He does a very good job in his role. I've seen him in some other French films. He's a French actor with like Janet Reno, The Crimson Rivers. To be exact, when he was much younger. But he does an excellent job in his role as the captain. I gotta give a shout out there. Those were the real breakout stars of the movie to me. But everyone does a pretty good job in their roles. There wasn't anybody in particular that I didn't like in some regard or the other. The pacing of this film is freaking insane. Like, within the first 5 minutes of the movie, shit's gone down. And then it just continues non-stop for the next hour and a half. And this movie is only an hour and a half. And they cram a lot of crap in here. I honestly thought we were in there for like 2 hours. And that's meant to be a total compliment because I was highly engaged the whole time. The situations were tense. That the acting and the fear conveyed in these situations, along with these amazing sets that these guys were on, holy crap, just really came together well. The visuals in this movie are another really huge kudos to this. Now, this movie was made by Fox, and right away you get this crazy Aliens feeling from like the dingy walls and panels of the mining station, the crazy control panels that they be using. There's even a scene where like after shit's gone down, they're like standing around this lighted table having a discussion, and I swear to God you're on a reconstructed Nostromo from Alien, and it's just amazing, and I really appreciated that, and I feel like that was what they were going for, and if that was the case, they totally succeeded. And as they're in this, some spoilers here. So like they're in this colony, and like the pressure from things collapsing is like making it slowly implode in on itself. So they're having to get to level to try to get to these escape pods before they get crushed. And like they start having to climb through some crazy spaces that are like, body crawling length, and it reminds me of Aliens when Bishop's having to crawl through that tunnel with just using like his shoulders and his chin to crawl forward. Incredible stuff, really intense. If you're claustrophobic, this might not be the movie for you. Or like if you're trying to like test your fear and seeing if you can go there, this is a pretty good indicator, honestly. Let's talk a little bit about the gore. Now, there is some gore in this movie, and it's used quite effectively. And some of like the death and stuff that they show isn't necessarily like gory, but the effect that it has is way more profound than something with gore. Like they go crawling. Initially, the main character finds like one of the first survivors of the initial explosions from the oil rig, and they have to crawl through this crazy tunnel to get to another section. And as they're crawling by, they find one of their dead crew members, and she's just laying there, and her eyes are just wide open looking at you, but she's super dead. And like, they take time and they're looking at that, trying to process the situation, and they let you sit there and also process the situation, and it gives great levity, and it's really brutal. I went with my kids, and my kids were telling me how brutal that was, and my youngest daughter actually, she liked it, but she was like, that was too realistic. And I was like, yeah, that was pretty brutal. Heart-wrenching stuff there. Now, obviously, they're underwater, and they're in these pressure suits. When things be getting burst open on their suits, well, guess what? They depressurize and implode. And they be showing this stuff goopy. People's helmets like cracking in, and then their bodies blowing out. They be showing this stuff, and then they be having to like swim through like guts and stuff of people that have exploded. There's a part where a guy gets his freaking leg ripped off, and then it's like the rest of him just like blows out because the things that they have unleashed from the bottom of the ocean are just ripping them out of their suits. Pretty awesome stuff for PG-13. Really, really appreciated that, and they used them in. It was sparse. It was spread out enough to where the scenes had high impact, and I really, really appreciated that actually. Super surprised at this PG-13 stuff. Maybe my opinion could change if they keep cranking out bombs like this, because this was freaking incredible. Speaking of the fish monsters, let's talk about the fish monsters. So these guys are drilling at the bottom of the ocean, and they drill too deep, and they unleash these crazy fish monsters that just be wanting to eat everything. And they're attracted to what these guys got going on at their station. And that's what leads to their doom in the first place. Really like the design of these monsters. They're like almost incorporeal, like a half ghost, half fish monster is the best way I can describe it. Really awesome sequences with these monsters underwater, especially like when they start getting towards like the way station that they need to go to, so that they can get to these escape pods, because the first place they were at was destroyed, so they have to go a mile across the ocean floor. Well, they start encountering these fish monsters, and they're just all coming through the water, all whipping themselves around and shit. Ridiculous, man. I freaking loved it. And like, they're all looking around with their little beady little lights that it can only see like 10 or 15 feet in front of them, and you're seeing it from first person view as they're coming in and out of the shadows. Really good stuff, very effective. I'm not too big a fan of CG. I know you've heard this many times before, but there's a time and a place, and that time was for that, and it was awesome. So kudos to that as well. And like I said, these are spoilers, so if you don't want to hear this, you know, plug your ears for the next 20 or 30 seconds. There ends up being like a giant Godzilla freaking fish monster, and like the scale of that is ridiculous, and they fire a flare at it, and it just looks at them like, who the you messing with? And it's just like, good stuff. So they've unleashed hell from the ocean. This story goes in lots of shocking directions. Very surprised that Kristen Stewart doesn't make it out alive. But like you can kind of see that this crew is all about each other from the very beginning, because there's another guy who knows he's gonna die from some crap, but yet he still does it to make sure that the rest of the crew can move on. So that's just like the theme of what's going on here. I don't know how I feel about all that, because, well, I guess there's another, like, a theme of, you know, love will survive, I guess. Like, is kind of like a little thing going on there. But I'm not going to get too much in that. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. You can let me know in the comments, like, your thoughts on that. The music in this is really, really good too. Like, some of the music seems really out of place, especially like during the end sequence. They play this crazy, like, retro 90s synth wave, and it just fits really good, and you would think that it wasn't, because when you first hear the audio, you're like, is this the right choice? And then you're like, yeah. And then the rest of the music that's playing through the movie is really good too. Fits the tension really well. It's very subtle most of the time, which is cool, because, you know, you're underwater, everything's like, they take that into effect. Overall, Underwater is an amazing addition to the sci-fi genre. Kristen Stewart's performance surprised the hell out of me. The PG-13 brutalness surprised the hell out of me. The story was just really good. It's fast-paced. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, guys. Like, this, it's a breeze to get through, and it's super refreshing going to all these movies that are like 2.5, 3 hours. I super appreciate that, don't get me wrong, but it's really nice to go to a movie theater at 4:30 and be out by 6:30. That doesn't happen too often these days, so I still had my whole night to go watch a bunch of other frickin' movies, which I did. Anyways, thanks for checking out my Underwater discussion. If you like what we got going on the channel, like, subscribe, share, hit me with the old LSS, it always helps us out here. For Rotted Peach Productions, I'm Jimmy P.